these two other senators, and then the CS will be able to respond, because you need only one similar answer. Senator Omar Sheikh, Maliam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is CS. What do you think about this KPSEA exam, which require a lot of resource, and at the end of it, there is no certificate? And what is the difference between the KPSEA and the internal exam done by individual schools? Thank you.
Maliam. Last on this question, Senator Agnes Kavidu Modama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you,
Mine
Mr.
is
Speaker. Honorable CS, from the tragedy of Changuli
about this KPSEA exam, 2001, which require a lot of resource,
the Ministry
and at
of
the end of
Education
it, there is no certificate.
must have put in place by now
what is the difference
about
between
fires
the
in schools. And I would also like to know those from the tragedy of Changuli,
about this KPSEA exam,
2001,
which require a lot of resource,
the Ministry
and at
of
the end of
Education
it, there is no certificate.
must have put in place by now
what is the difference
about
between
fires
the
in schools.
Thank you, Mr.
And I would also like to know
agree with
from the tragedy of Changuli,
about this KPSEA exam,
2001,
which require
think
a lot of resource,
the Ministry
and
of
at the end of it,
Education
there is no certificate.
must have put in place by now
what is the difference
about
between
fires
the
in schools.
Thank you. In terms of the monies that were promised, the 15 million was, of course, paid. Out of the 20 million, we've already paid 5 million, and we are following up with the 15 million balance. And this is because of the limitations of resources, as you may understand. Once it becomes available, we would be able to sort that out. So it is in the program. Thank you. Now, regarding compensation policy at the Ministry for accidents, fires, and any other misfortunes events paid. Out of the 20 million, we've already paid during the previous financial year. We had and this is because of the limitations provided resources under the Edu Afia that covered all these requirements, and every incident and accident so it is was compensatable through that policy. Now, regarding compensation policy at the Ministry for accidents, fires, and any other misfortunes events paid. Out of the 20 million, we've already paid during the previous financial year. We had and this is because of the limitations provided resources under the Edu Afia that covered all these requirements, and every incident and accident so it is compensatable through that policy. Now, regarding compensation policy at the Ministry for accidents, fires, and any other misfortunes events paid. Out of the 20 million, we've already paid during the previous financial year. We had and this is because of the limitations provided resources in the Afia that covered all these requirements, and every incident and accident. That policy. because the safety and quality assurance officers that we have are not sufficient. So we'll be coming back to Parliament to seek for more resources in order to employ a number that is proportional to the schools that we have, in order to ensure that the spot checks are done on a regular basis, and that we have enough personnel well capacitated to ensure that they are doing their job and they are properly, capacitated, tooled, enough vehicles. In fact, there's a question of vehicles, it comes to it, and ensuring that that spot check is going to be done on a regular basis. Because the safety and quality assurance officers that we have, because the safety are not sufficient, quality assurance coming back that we have, Parliament are not sufficient, so we'll be coming back to employ Parliament a number that is proportional in order to employ the schools that we have. We said we put in place measures to ensure that these things don't happen, and I think Kenyans need to take it seriously, even parents, to help us when they go to schools and maybe they find students are congested. It is for them to let us know, then we'll move. I submit.
Thank you, CS. Let's now go to question number 095.
Put in place measures to ensure that
Senator
these things don't happen, and I
Mwenda
think
Gataya.
Kenyans need to take it seriously, even parents, to help us when they go to schools and maybe they find students are congested. It is for them.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Then we'll move.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to ask a question from the CS Education
Let's now go to
pertaining issues in the Raganidi County.
095.
So, Honorable Waziri, what is the Ministry doing to address the existing shortage of educational staff, specifically curriculum support and quality assurance officers in the Raganidi County? Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Are there plans by the Ministry to deploy additional vehicles to the Raganidi County to address the prevailing deficiencies and enhance delivery of educational services across the county? Honorable Waziri, what is the Ministry doing? Could the Cabinet Secretary at the same time also explain why it has taken long for teachers serving in Kadwana, Chuka municipalities and Chuka and Mangombe sub-counties respectively to consider for hardship allowance despite serving similar adverse conditions as their colleagues in Tharaka South and Tharaka North sub-counties? I submit on why it has taken long for teachers serving
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On question part A, to that question, Tharaka-Nithi County, Mr. Speaker, has one lead county quality assurance and standards officer based at the county education offices. It also has one quality assurance and standards officer based at the county education offices, and 7 sub-county quality assurances and standard officers that are stationed in the 7 sub-counties in Tharaka-Nithi as follows.
why it has taken long for teachers serving in Kadwana,
Titus Command Mburu, quality assurance and standards officers in all its 7 sub-counties. This is the standard staffing level for quality assurance and standard officers. All these officers have also been capacity built and inducted in the ongoing education reforms and are executing their mandates within their respective sub-counties. Part 2 of the question. The ministry dispatched 3 Isuzu D-Max double cabin vehicles to Tharaka Nithi County in November 2023. An additional vehicle was dispatched to the county this October. The following are the vehicles serving the county. Number 1, there is a GKC 670A with the CDE. Number 2, GKC 680A with the sub-county director, Tharaka North. Number 3, JKC 653A, Tharaka South. And number 4, JKC 671 in Mara. The ministry is seeking the requisite budgetary allocation in order to purchase more vehicles for the remaining sub-counties, and indeed other parts of the country are also facing the similar shortages. Part C, Mr. Speaker, the payment of hardship allowance is done automatically once an area is classified as a hardship area. The classification is done by the Ministry of Public Service and Human Capital Development. The areas of the county that are currently classified as hardship zones are indicated in legal notice number 534 of 1997 and next provided as annexure number 4. Tharaka South and Tharaka North sub-counties are not classified as hardship areas at the moment. As a ministry, we write to the Ministry of Public Service and Human Capital Development to request it to consider specified areas as hardship areas. Once that classification is done, the Teacher Service Commission will automatically pay the allowances. I submit. The classification is done by the
We've captioned the answers given by the CS. Honorable Speaker, you know, I am asking questions on behalf of the service consumers, especially on part 1, Honorable Speaker, where we are seeking to know whether we are getting some correct assurance and curriculum developers. This is an issue, Honorable Speaker, that has really bedeviled quite a number of sub-counties, though the CS has just narrated the number of the correct assurance and curriculum developers on the ground. But I think I want to be on record, Honorable Speaker, that is not the situation on the ground. You know, in some parts of the Raganiti, and it's very vast, Honorable Speaker. You don't expect one sub-county with one correct assurance officer plus one, the whole sub-county in check of the quality of education in those relevant schools for that. Honorable Speaker, on question number 2, I've captioned the CS also talk about the number of vehicles. You know, you go to places like Tharaka South, which cuts across all the way from Itubo to areas like Kamanyaki, and then you expect that some counties maybe to have one vehicle. I think that is not reasonable, Honorable Speaker. And then maybe the CS I've admired, because when you talk of the budget, maybe once the budget allows, maybe please kindly make sure that we have enough vehicles to make sure that people get service. On question number 3, Honorable Speaker, about allowance. No, those are just one question, Honorable Speaker. I'm just interrogating the answers that CS are just given. I am not diverting from my previous question, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of hardship allowance, Honorable Speaker, this is my third time when I'm trying to talk about the number of question about the hardship allowance. We have our brothers in Tharaka North, Honorable Speaker, the Tharaka South, Honorable Speaker, who are enjoying hardship allowance. Actually, even teachers from the upper zone of Tharaka are struggling. They are struggling to go to Tharaka where they can get some extra coin. So, if you go to a Kapangombe sub-county, Honorable Speaker, it is equally to talk of the budget, maybe one hardship, just like Tharaka South and Tharaka North. I think, I don't know what measures the ministry is supposed now to initiate to make sure that we don't have disparities in those 3 counties, Honorable Speaker. No, those are just one question. I'm just interrogating the answers that CS are just given. I am not diverting from my previous question, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of hardship allowance, Honorable Speaker, this is my third time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable CS, I would like to know what are the plans within the ministry on the issue of the prolonged registration of the new schools, because it takes a lot of time, and even after the schools have been in place for even up to 4 years, there is no registration, meaning they miss from capitation and other ministries' services. Another thing is the issue of unemployment of teachers who have graduated 15 years. What are the plans that the ministry has? Because a number of things that you are doing right now, or the formula that you are doing right now, is not favoring.
Yeah, thank you very much,
who graduated back 2009. What are the plans that you are putting in place?
I would like to know.
Thank you.
What are the plans
Unfortunately, similar
within the
questions were
ministry
asked.
on the issue of the prolonged registration of the new
I
schools?
was very hesitant to cut you
Because
short.
it takes a lot of time, and
I listened, and
even
because of
after
gender
the schools
issues,
have
you know,
been
gender
in
issues
place
are
for
very
even up to
sensitive.
4 years,
I said I
there
give
is
you a
no
leeway to ask
registration,
your question.
meaning
So let me
they
get
miss
others
from
from
capitation and other
Senator
ministries'
Beatrice Ogora.
services. Another thing is the issue of unemployment.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On the
teachers who
same
have
spirit,
graduated
what means of
15
transport
years.
does the ministry
What are the
provide
plans
for
that the ministry has?
to sub-county
A number of
offices
things that you are doing right now, or
in the spirit of
the formula that you are doing right now is not
devolution and
favoring.
decentralization? Honorable Speaker, a case in point is my sub-county in Dewa.
What are the plans that
With
you are
over 153 primary schools across 7 wards, what means of transport do these ministry staff use for quality assurance and to reach the 153 school? Honorable Speaker.
even after the schools have
Senator Wambua Enoch, gender issues are very
even
sensitive.
up to 4 years?
I said I give you a leeway to ask your
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is on the
Capitation and other
Beatrice Ogora.
hardship allowances.
Another thing is the issue of
Thank you,
unemployment.
Honorable Speaker. On the same spirit,
It's more like a comment,
what
Mr.
means of
Speaker,
transport does
because
the
you see
ministry provide
there seems to be
for
serious
sub-county
disparity
offices
Things that you are doing
across
in the
government
spirit of
departments.
that you are doing right now.
That
decentralization?
one department of government
Honorable Speaker, a case
would
in
appreciate a
point is
region
my sub-county in Dewa.
as a hardship area,
Over 153
and
primary
staff
schools
working there then are
across
considered
7
for
wards.
support
What means of
working in
transport
hardship
do
areas.
these
Other
ministry
departments of
staff
government
use
don't consider the
quality
same area
assurance and
as
to reach
hardship
the
area.
153?
And then it is complicated by this support that is given by the Equalization Fund, where we have identified 33 counties to benefit from that fund. And you realize that some teachers in some of those marginalized areas, which have been identified as deserving of Equalization Fund, are not considered for hardship allowance. So, the Speaker, mine would be to ask the CS whether then we would ride on this question to have a multi-agency approach to ensure that areas that are identified as marginalized in one region, staff working in those areas are treated as deserving of allowance from across the government departments. I thank you. To benefit from that fund. And you realize that some teachers in some of those marginalized
Being handled by a technical team appointed by the Ministry of Public Service. The Teacher Service Commission has made submissions to that team for ensuring that there are areas that are treated, like Senator Wambua said, by one department or one side of the government as hardship is treated the same way. So this I couldn't agree with him more. We need to do that multi-agency approach so that we have an harmonized system of knowing and confirming that if this area is hardship area for the Ministry of Interior, for example, it should be hardship area for the Ministry of Education or the TSC. So we thank you for those suggestions. We'll ride on them and we'll make the relevant submissions to the technical team and to look at a circular that was issued in 1997. It is very, very many years ago. So we need to look at it and have a current one that actually works and that harmonizes all the other areas and ensures that we do not disenfranchise other people are working in the same conditions. It is even discriminatory because you, under Section 20, Article 27, you should be treated the same. So it's something that we need to look at, and we promise that we are going to have a look at it. In terms of the Ministry of Interior registration, on the issue of schools registration, we have decentralized the registration of schools, and now they are in the counties. So if it has not, if it has taken that long, then we look at it if we can get those details of those schools, and we ensure that if they meet the requirements, they are registered. Because when we do not register them, we disenfranchise the students who go there. Because without registration, you don't get capitation, you don't get capitation. We are not obeying Article 43 and 53 of the Constitution that requires us to give free primary education to children. So if that is happening, please bring it to our attention so that we can deal with it. So it's something that we need to look at. On the issue of the means of transport in Ntv, the position is the same as I have answered. Each particular county has a vehicle, and sub-counties have a vehicle, but they are not sufficient, they are not enough. Some sub-counties have 2 vehicles, some counties have 2-3 vehicles when they need maybe 5. So we are rationalizing that and trying to get the funds from Treasury and budget in order to ensure that each sub-county at least has 1 vehicle in order for our officers to be able to move around. And from Ntv, what I could suggest, because I don't have the data here, I will get the data and share it with the member so that we have on the same page. I think we've covered the issue of the hardship alliance and the issue that Senator Wambua raised. On the issue of the means of transport in Ntv, the position is the same as I have answered. Each particular
you have found that the CS has no data for
Honorable Speaker, if you allow, I would have just loved to get an example of which sub-county, especially maybe in Homa Bay, has a vehicle.
Get the funds
Because my knowledge, I don't see any.
that is the data that the CS has requested to appeal.
in order for the
And soonest time possible. So CS, once you are ready, you can.
we have actually requested for the list. Maybe before we leave, I get it and share it. I will get the data from the office to get
Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is an important question, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask it. Related to the quality assurance and standards officers, Mr. Speaker. In response to the question asked by Senator Mwenda Gataya, the CS has said that the standard staffing level for quality assurance and standards officer, according to his response, Mr. Speaker, is 1 officer per sub-county. Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge this because, the CS should know that we had what we used to call the directorate of, inspectorate. And there's a reason, Mr. Speaker, why this was changed from inspectorate, because it denoted, Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is an fault finding. It was changed to quality assurance and standards. Mr. Speaker, there I put it to the CS that there is a big shortage, abiding shortage all over the country, Mr. Speaker, because if you say that that the standard staffing level is 1 officer per sub-county, then, Mr. Speaker, these officers are not adequate to go to schools and help in curriculum support. So I think I want to challenge that because the CS seems to be comfortable with that standard, that we need more quality assurance and standards officers in order for these officers to guide schools and teachers and to help them in curriculum support. So I think I would want to, Mr. Speaker, to hear from the CS whether he thinks that this is sufficient, and if not, what then the ministry thinks should be done. Otherwise, curriculum support is something that teachers need, because now we are not inspecting teachers, we want to assist them. We need more officers. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. That the standard staffing level is 1 officer per sub-county. Then, Mr. Speaker,
More than us, who are not
adequate to go to school.
And we request you to do more interaction with the CS so that you can sort these problems. I can see you understand everything,
need
do a
more
lot of
quality
interaction with the
assurance
minister
standards officers
so that
for these officers to guide schools and teachers and to help them in
No,
curriculum
I
support.
request
So,
him to
Speaker,
give the
we want
committee
to,
today from
Mr.
the
Speaker,
chair.
to hear from
I want us to go to the
whether
next
he
question,
thinks
honourable
that
members.
this
We have
is
so
fair.
many other questions left here.
Then Mr. Speaker,
And therefore, I guide that
Otherwise,
maybe as we move along, you can ask to be giving that leave
we are
at
not
least
expecting
to ask that.
we want to assist them.
Senator
We need more assistance.
Karungu,
Mr. Speaker,
ask question 100, 100.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I rise to ask
Request you to do more
my
interaction
questions,
with
and as I do so, Mr. Speaker,
so
allow me
that
to
you
bring
can
to the
sort these
attention of the
problems.
House
I can see you understand
that in
everything.
the afternoon we anticipate, under the order number 37, to discuss matters on consolidation of bursary. So probably this is a very important issue. We listen to the answers.
I want us to go to the next question.
Yes. My question, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide statistics on the total amount of funding allocated for bursaries at both the county and national levels over the past 3 years, and clarify on how the funds have been disbursed per county?
Mr. Speaker.
B, has the government maintained records of all bursary beneficiaries? And could the Cabinet Secretary explain the mechanism for tracking this information? Question number 3, what is the number of students who have benefited from bursary allocations at both the county and the national levels during the past 3 years? And finally, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary outline the measures the government uses to monitor bursaries allocated by various government agencies, and clarify the mechanism for this monitoring, indicating how the money is disbursed after the funds have been allocated? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. B, has the government maintained records?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And could the Cabinet Secretary explain the mechanism for tracking this information?
And with your kind
Question number
permission,
3,
allow me to respond
what
to
is the
these
number of
questions,
students who have
the four
benefited from
sub-questions
bursary
together.
allocations at both
Thank you,
the
Mr.
county
Speaker.
and the national
Firstly,
levels?
I wish to state that the
during the
ministry
past
does
3
not
years?
provide any
Finally,
bursaries
Mr.
for
Speaker,
basic education.
could the Cabinet
The
Secretary
ministry only
outline the
administers the
measures the
Limu
government
scholarship, which supports
uses to
selected
monitor
students through
bursaries
secondary school.
allocated
The
by
scholarship
various
has been
government
running since
agencies
2020,
and clarify
and
the
out of
mechanism
that
for this
period,
monitoring,
a total of
indicating
52,000
how the
students
money
have
is
benefited
disbursed
under the
after the
program.
funds have been
The breakdown of the funding per year is as follows. In the year 2020, there were 9,000 scholarships at a total sum of 1,013,238,782. In the year 2021, there was 9,000 scholarships at a total amount of 1,322,841,971. 2022, there was a total of 9,000 scholarships at a total amount of 2,967,055,422. In 2023, there's a total of 10,574 scholarships at a total amount of 3,405,949,326. And in 2024, we had 14,426 scholarships at a total amount of 4,018,177,480. That makes a total of 52,000 scholarships at a total amount of 12,727,262,981. Secondly, bursaries are provided through the framework of the National Government Constituency Development Fund and the county governments. The Ministry of Education is not involved in the processes at both levels and does not have the records of the allocations of awards that are made by the respective members of parliament and the county governors. The ministry does not have any legal or administrative mechanism for monitoring the bursaries allocated by the CDF and by the county governments. Mr. Speaker, the challenge relating to the management of bursaries and scholarships was identified by the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform. The Working Party noted that there are various sources of funding available, but that they are fragmented and uncoordinated, leading to some students benefiting from multiple awards while leaving many others outside or without. A total of 52,000 scholarships. The government is spending heavily on education, Mr. Speaker, at 27% of the total expenditure, total budget expenditure. This is well beyond the UNESCO recommended rate of 15 to 20% of the annual public expenditure. Yet, we still experience lower outcomes, which can be attributed to inefficiencies in the allocation of resources in the sector. To address this challenge, Mr. Speaker, one of the recommendations by the Working Party was to create a coordinated framework for scholarships and bursaries across all levels of education. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, we've developed two bills. One, the Basic Education Bursaries and Scholarships Bill 2024, that establishes Bursaries and Scholarships Fund to coordinate and administer scholarships and bursaries in basic education. The Council will also provide oversight in the governance of scholarships in the county and maintain a database of the administration and coordination of scholarships in Kenya. We have also developed the Tertiary Education Placement and Funding Bill 2024, which creates the Tertiary Education Placement and Funding Authority. The authority will have the mandate of placing students in tertiary institutions and granting loans and scholarships. It will also maintain a database in tertiary education and placement and funding. The bills were subjected to stakeholder validation on the 1st of March 2024 and to public participation from 28th February 2024 to 15th March 2024. They are awaiting cabinet approval, after which we will submit them to Parliament. We will welcome the support of this Honourable House and actually this Honourable House in debating and passing these bills with any necessary amendments so that we can create a foundation towards ensuring that resources in the education sector are optimally used. I will also provide oversight in the governance of scholarships in the county and maintain a database of the administration.
Mr. Speaker, I think the good CS evaded my questions, and I believe the response is not satisfactory in the sense that I'm sad to hear that the Ministry of Education appears to lack awareness of how much bursaries goes to government schools, of which the ministry is in charge. Mr. Speaker, whether the bursary is given by CDF, by Women Rep, or by the county government, I believe the school receives the money and they're supposed to report back to the ministry. So I think this answer is not very satisfactory. But I have a supplementary question. If you allow me, I can ask one, because I am entitled to two. Then after that one is answered, I can come back and ask the second one. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So in that regard, to my question to the CAs, how much does the ministry need to make secondary education free, fully free? How much would you require to make sure that everybody who goes to secondary school and I believe doesn't pay anything? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm sad to hear that the Ministry of Education appears to lack awareness of how much bursaries goes to government school, of which the ministry is in charge. Mr. Speaker, whether the bursary is given...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would want the Cabinet Secretary to clarify something for me. In the breakdown of what you've given, we take the example of the year 2024, and you've given the figure, the total amount, and the number of scholarships. I don't know whether I'm getting it right, but it's coming to almost 200 and something thousand per annum. Could you elaborate this and probably tell this House, these 14,000, are they in where are they? So that we can know where these schools where maybe you are giving 200,000 plus. Thank you.
How much would you require to make sure that everybody...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and Honorable CS, welcome to Senate.
I said I'm giving senators who have not spoken this morning. And there is no policy that says I should give this and this and this morning. Senator Catherine, you know you are in the proceed. Proceed, Catherine Veronica.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS,
I would want
we are headed for school holidays in another few weeks in December. And you know, during school holidays, girls suffer a lot of
the total amount.
violence is meted against them, especially school girls.
I don't know whether I'm getting it
Those
right.
who face
It's
FGM,
coming to almost
mutilation through
200,000
FGM,
per annum.
and these are school
Could
going
you
children.
elaborate this and probably tell
Does
this
the
house,
ministry
these
have
40,000, are they in
any
secondary?
plans
Where
or
are they?
any
So
strategy
that we can know
to ensure
where
these school
where
girls
maybe you
are
giving
protected in this
200,000 plus.
December?
Thank you.
I have in mind counties where FGM is rampant. Some of the northeastern counties, some of the central part of Kenya counties, counties like Bomet also, Bomet County. What plans do you have as a ministry to ensure that these girls can come back to school in January without having faced that knife and the FGM menace and the consequences that befall these children? And what is the ministry doing about the 68 or so girls who have been prosecuted because of going through the rights? The victims have been prosecuted through criminal proceedings, and they are facing sentences or serious penal consequences because of having faced the knife, and yet they are taken by adults. What measures do you have as a ministry to safeguard?
But kindly members ask questions relevant to the prime question. Because you are now handling bursaries, you know
I have in mind
his mind is focused on bursaries.
FGM is
And now
rampant.
you will take him to
Some
FGM.
of the northeastern counties.
So let us
some
first
of
ask questions relevant to
central
the
part of
questions
Kenya counties,
requested by members. Then if we have some time later, we can give the general questions.
What plans do you have as a ministry to ensure
the bursary,
if they are going through
Okay,
the
Senator
FGM,
Veronica, you have been
they
asked.
can't
Thank you, Senator.
and the FGM menace and the consequences that befall these children?
Thank
And
you,
what
Mr.
is the
Speaker.
ministry doing about
But my question to
the
Honorable
68 or
CS
so girls
is not about
who have been
CDF
because of
and
going through
bursaries.
the rights? The victims
It's
have been
about
prosecuted
hardship allowances
and they are facing
in
sentences
Mwala
serious
and Kalama
penal
sub-county.
because of having faced the
Honorable
knife, and yet
CS,
they are taken by adults.
by all standards, Mwala and Kalama sub-county is supposed to have been qualifies to hardship allowances, because even the surrounding sub-counties like Yatta and part of Makueni, where we border Mwala, receive hardship allowances. And so I'm wondering, because we've been requesting for these allowances for Mwala sub-county and Kalama, and nothing is coming up. Mr. Honorable CS, what are you doing about these sub-counties? Thank you, Mr. Honorable CS. Mr. Speaker,
Just have your seat now. Let us have some order, kindly.
my question to
If
Honorable
the,
CS,
you know, I want to give you
is not
free
about
advice, is that the CS actually responded to those questions and indirected
It's
very well to the
about,
Minister of Public Service.
hardship
That is
allowances
where senators should go
in
to sort out
Mwala
issues of
and Kalama sub-county.
handship allowance issue.
Honorable CS,
So I
by all
understand what
standards,
you mean, but
Mwala
kindly let us
and
ask
Kalama
questions relevant to the prime.
is supposed
Otherwise,
to
I will ask my team here,
qualifies
any member,
to
who is
hardship
digressing from the
allowances.
main question. Because you have
Because
several
even the
senators who have
surrounding
been here since
sub-counties
morning
like
to ask their
Yatta and part of
questions. CS, you can answer those.
Makueni, where we
Then
border
from there, we
Mwala,
are going to the question by
receive
Senator
hardship
from Isiolo
allowances.
County.
And so I'm wondering, because we've been requesting for these allowances for Mwala sub-county and Kalama, and nothing is coming up.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, what are you
I was
doing
trying to get some clarity.
these sub-counties? Thank you, Mr.
I just want to
Honorable
state
CS.
that
Mr. Speaker,
I don't want it to go on record that I'm evading a question.
my question to
The response that I'm giving is a response based on the facts and the data that we have and the information that we have on the issue of bursaries and on the issue
and Kalama
of
sub-county.
the scholarships, so to speak. And it is true that the schools receive these bursaries, and the ministry has no system of getting feedback, or has not been having a system of getting feedback of how much bursary the students have received. So I think it is a good suggestion that maybe going forward we need to have a structure where all the amounts paid per child to a school needs to be databased or domiciled in the ministry. And that is the reason why we said that the exercise is uncoordinated. And because of that, in fact, I can go further to answer and state that there is no analysis that has been done to determine, for instance, how much money do you require for a child to start from ECD and go all the way to university. We do not have that data. That is the same position vis-a-vis that we do not have also data of how much money as a country are we spending on education. The 27% I talked about is the government allocation. There is other figures, other amounts that donors give, other people contribute, the donations we give. That analysis has not been done to determine how much money are we really spending in education. And that's the conversation that came about after we started having these issues relating to the higher education funding model. So it is right for us to discuss. I think it is the way that to go. We need to determine how much money do we need to give free education to our children, and then how much money are we spending, so that we find out whether we are spending more or less. Then we can determine, come up with policies and regulations on how to deal with. So to your second question, we do not have a figure that we can tell you this is the actual amount that you need to give free education, secondary education to children. It's a conversation I think that needs to be had, and it's the same. And all of us on the table, we need to work on it and come up with it, because 27% of the budget is unsustainable. We are not going to be able to proceed raising this. We need to get a better way of dealing with it. On the issue of FGM, what normally happens in this situation is we work with the national government administration to ensure that the parents comply with the government regulations that have been put down, and where we get involved, where we get information that our students are being harassed in any way, the county officers that we have in our counties and sub-counties then take action. But sometimes, these are cases that they do under the table. It's hidden. So we need the Ministry of the Interior that we work with and the headmen and all the chiefs and the administration to ensure that the girls, when they are on holiday, they are not harassed. Your second question, that is, we do not have our own, for example, police or administration to manage that space. The hardship alliance, I think, had answered that question. I think that needs to be had. And it's the same, and all of us on the table, we need to work on it and come up.
Personally, I want to give
27% of the budget
and one of you from this table just agree. Yeah, fine, Senator Karungu, I'm aware.
On the issue of FGM, what normally happens in this situation is we work with...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, this area of bursaries is a very gray area. Very, very gray area.
Parents comply with the government.
And I'm happy we'll be discussing this later in the afternoon. But because the CS is here, I want to know from him whether the presidential bursary scheme for orphans and vulnerable students is still operational, and who benefits from it. Mr. Speaker, I ask that question because some of these things, we just read them on paper. I would actually specifically wish after this, because maybe he doesn't have that data, if you can give us a list of students per county who have benefited from that presidential bursary scheme. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. It sounds so funny to learn from the CS that the ministry doesn't have the amount
And I'm happy we'll be discussing this later. The CS is here.
Can give our students or pupils to have free education.
Whether the
What
presidential
formula are they using to come up with capitation? Because capitation is based on population. What formula do they have as a ministry?
and who benefits from it?
Just direct question, like your colleague.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that question because
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
some of these things,
allow me
just
to
read
tell
them
you
on
that I
paper.
feel gagged.
I would actually
Because
specifically
although I chair
want
education,
wish
Mr. Speaker, but the
after this,
questions
because
that
maybe
come
he doesn't
before
have
this House,
that data,
if I need a
you can
clarification,
give us a
kindly
list
allow
of
me to seek it.
students per county.
Just a fair comment.
Thank
who
you,
have
thank you,
benefited
thank you, Mr.
from
Speaker.
that
Mr.
presidential
Speaker, the issue of bursaries is very, very important. And Mr. Speaker, I thank the government of Kenya, of His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, for the many things that are happening in the education sector, and particularly in the answer that the CS gave about a Elimu scholarship that the ministry runs. And we have seen figures there, Mr. Speaker. But would the minister kindly tell us what criteria the ministry uses to identify the learners that benefit from Elimu scholarship? Because looking at the year 2020, for example, Mr. Speaker, very quickly, and I know that we don't have time, if you divide the number of the learners that have benefited from these scholarships, it was supposed to be about 112 if it was uniformly distributed. But the question is, how do they identify the learners that benefit from a scholarship? I think.
Senator Karungo,
Mr. Speaker, from the admission of the CS that there's no data present or available, or even the monies that are disbursed to school, I think as a Senate we need to step in and assist the ministry so that we are able to have that data. In line with that, Mr. Speaker, and not to speak on behalf of Senator Mbogwa, there was a question he had asked about the 4 billion that was given to 14,426 as scholarships. Mr. Speaker, if you do the math, that is to say each student received 278,000, Mr. Speaker, within this year of 2024. And if this money was to go to capitation, if you divide that to 22,244, it means that it could have assisted 180,000 students. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the best thing is to have this discussion as a House on the motion that we have and help the education ministry to have data, because nobody knows where the money is going. Mr. Speaker, I do not have further questions, Mr. Speaker. Or available, or even the monies that are disbursed to school. I think as a Senate we need to step in and assist the ministry so that we are able to have that data. In line with that, Mr. Speaker, and not to speak on behalf of Senator Mbogwa, there was a question he had asked about the 4 billion that was given to 14,426 as scholarships. Mr. Speaker, if you do the math, that is to say each student received 278,000, Mr. Speaker, within this year.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And if this money was to go to capitation, if you divide that to 22,244, it means that it could have assisted 180,000 students. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the best thing is to have this discussion as a House
give an answer just shortly, but the figure that you see is cumulative, and it covers not just tuition, but transport. It covers school fees, transport, personal kits, etc. And that's why the figure might look different. But I agree that we need a conversation. We need clarity. And the amount of money that the government contributes or gives as capitation per student, in reality, that is really not the actual figure that is spent. That's what I was talking about. If you say you are giving capitation of 1,450 shillings, that can't be the cost that you require per learner in that school, because the parent then is required to do other things, and the figure goes up. What I meant is that there hasn't been a clear mathematical formula to determine how much really do we need per students to be in school. That's what I mean. And that's why I'm saying that conversation needs to be had so that we can actually come up with a proper figure that we can work up with, so that even when we are planning as a government and as a country, we know exactly what we are looking at. So that conversation needs to be had. And we agree that it's time for it to be had. On the presidential bursary scheme, that scheme is still operational, but it is again domiciled in the Ministry of Labor. So we don't have data on it as well. And this is what I'm talking about. So there are many players in the field who are playing in this space whose data as a ministry we do not have. And we need to synchronize it and have it centered, and so that it is linked. I think I've answered most of those questions.
Senator Wambua, what is your clarification?
Did I hear the minister, the CS, saying that the presidential bursary scheme was domiciled in the Ministry of Labor?
That's what I mean, and that's why I'm saying.
Can there be an explanation to that, Mr. Speaker? What does the Ministry of Labor to do with a bursary scheme for students in high school?
Even when we are planning as a government,
Please,
and
Mr.
as
Speaker.
a country, we know exactly what we are school fees. So that conversation needs to be had.
Yes, Senator Muma, what is your clarification?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, one of the answers of the CS to Senator Thangwa's question is so important for us as Senate to interrogate. The CS has answered, has stated that the Ministry of Education is not involved in the process, in processes at both levels, and does not have records of allocations and awards of CDF money in relation to NGCDF, and the ministry does not have any legal and administrative mechanisms for monitoring these bursaries. He has further provided information that there are monies under presidential bursary they're not even, that he's not even aware of. Mr. Speaker, devolution includes both national and county governments. The function of delivering on education, primary education, secondary education, and universities is assigned to the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, this is so urgent that we would have a ministry that has no clue. We are currently discussing issues of bursaries. I even asked an earlier question and asked that he links bursaries to the monies he had said, the capitation, and he did not answer that question. Mr. Speaker, he may not be able to answer right now. As a Senate, that is a serious red flag, a confirmation of what was said by the courts, that the ministry has ceded its responsibility as the owner of that function to other players. No wonder we have problems in this sector. Provided information that there are monies under presidential bursary they're not even, that he's not even
clarification
aware of. Mr. Speaker,
the CS did not answer the question
devolution includes both national
on
and county
the criterion employed by the
function of
ministry
delivering
to
on
identify
education, primary
beneficiaries of a
secondary
LIM
education,
scholarship that is
and,
ran by the ministry.
universities
Because of the
is
principle of
assigned to the
equity,
Ministry
Mr.
of
Speaker,
Justice.
we may
Mr.
want to
Speaker,
know
this is so
exactly
urgent
how do they pick the beneficiaries.
that we would have a ministry that has no clue. We are
Senator Mohammed
currently
Abbas,
discussing
Wajir.
issues of
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think there is a question that I asked, and the Minister has not come out very well. I said, in northern Kenya, we rely on teachers employed by the Board of Management, both in the secondary schools and primary. I was asking whether the ministry can be able to train those teachers, because TSC does not have enough teachers. So, whether the ministry is willing to train those teachers so that at least they can be able to catch up with the new curriculum of CBC and all these things. Both in the secondary schools, majority of teachers are BOM employees. In the primary is the same things. We don't have enough teachers. So we're asking if the ministry can be able to favor us to train those teachers. Thank you.
On the
Cabinet Secretary, I'm not sure if you are able to address all those questions by Senator Muma, Senator John, Senator Mohammed Abbas,
Yes, thank you. The reason why the presidential bursary scheme is domiciled at the Ministry of Labour is because it is treated as a special program, just like the cash.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think there is a question that I asked.
That's
And
why
the Minister has not come out
so
very
it
well.
needs to domicile.
I said, in northern Kenya, we rely on teachers employed by
that's why we are saying,
Board of Management,
Mr. Speaker,
both in the secondary schools and
if
primary.
you look at the Ministry of
I was
Education,
asking
and the
whether
challenges
the
that
ministry
are
can be able to
we are
train those
saying we
teachers,
need
because
clarity.
TSC
That's
does
why
not
we
have
are
enough
bringing all
teachers.
these cases
So,
and having all these
whether the
discussions
ministry
so that
is
we can
willing
have
to train those
clarity,
teachers so
can
that
know
they
how much money we and even request it. Because with that, then we'll avoid so many of these strikes, so many of these issues that are in the ministry. Because as I said, there are many players in the Ministry of Education playing in different places, and we don't have sight. We don't have sight of it. So that is why it is domiciled there. With respect to the criteria that the Child Education asked for, the criteria include issues relating to students being orphans and the socio-economic background. Those are some of the criteria that they look at, and there is a community selection committee that is set up in the localized and devolved areas, who then identify those students who are going to be beneficiaries of the LIMU scholarships. That is the answer that I have as at the moment. With respect to whether the Ministry of Education can train the BOM teachers in Northeastern and Wajir, that is a preserve of the Teacher Service Commission, and perhaps we need to have a discussion with them to see, since they do not have their own teachers trained in those spaces, they can come up with a program, a special program that they can use to train those teachers to bring them up to the other standard in order for them to attend to our children. So, honorable members, all that we are saying is that we are ready for that conversation so that we can bring clarity to this sector in all ways, including the funding, so that we can have linkages, we can have sites. Thank you.
Senator Wambua, yes, what is your point of order?
Economic background.
Mr. Speaker, you know we are listening to the CS, and clearly, it's very clear to us, it's clear to this country, that this ministry is basically just groping in the dark. They are hoping for a conversation to resolve these issues. To hear that a bursary fund is being treated as a cash transfer to Wazes, you know, it's really amazing. So my question would be to the CS and the ministry, before we have that conversation, what is the solution to the problems that you're clearly facing? What solutions are you proposing to get yourselves out of the mess that clearly you are in, Mr. Speaker. And how much money is put in that presidential bursary scheme? How many people are benefited? You can't just say it is being transferred as money to Azez. And really, there must be a scheme of doing this. That is why it is called a scheme. It's a fund, really. So, Mr. Speaker, we are left with a lot more questions than answers. Can you clarify what in-house solutions they have to the mess that they find themselves in?
It's very clear to us, it's clear to this country. Senator, I will have to put an end to this line of questioning.
They are hoping for conversation.
There is something that Honorable Wambo is trying to raise. I've served in this parliament, previously the National Assembly, as a vice chair to the LEPA committee. And we've never, at any single day, deliberate on the Lumu Fund as a committee on labor. So I really want to know where this thing is. When was it started? Say that because the presidential bursaries has been there. It has been there. The questions that honourable members are raising are very pertinent. When did these bursaries taken to the Ministry of Labour? Thank you.
Honourable senators, we'll have to. At this point, we have to proceed.
That is why it is called a scheme.
What's your clarification?
The Ministry of Education is supposed to make policies. TC does not make any policy. The money comes from the Ministry of Education. So when we ask, since we don't have teachers, in that country, at those places of Wajir and Garissa, we are relying on the teachers being employed by the parents and the management of the boards. So we're only asking, with all due respect, well, we can come up with a policy so that at least we can be able to fill the gap.
And we've never,
you train those people
any single day,
on the new curriculum, so they can be able to
the Lumu Fund as a committee. So I really want to know where this thing is. When was it started? Say that because the presidential bursaries has been there.
The parents have employed them.
It has been there.
But they're not trained.
The questions that honourable members are raising are very pertinent. When did these bursaries taken to the Ministry of Labour? Thank you.
I think we have to understand one thing. As senators and as legislators, we've heard very clearly what the Cabinet Secretary has said in terms of the Limo Fund. And I think if we have an issue with it, it is for us as a Senate and legislators to take legal redress and address that issue. So I think as far as the Cabinet Secretary is concerned, he has given the position of the ministry. And as for the TSC, Senator Abbas, I think also he was very clear. The mandate for the welfare, recruitment, training of teachers is the mandate of Teacher Service Commission. So at this point, Senators, I will have to leave this matter and proceed to the next question. Question by Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Where this thing is, when was it started? Say that because the presidential bursaries has been there.
The parents have employed them.
It has been there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are, could the Cabinet Secretary indicate the number of schools that are connected to electricity and water in Isiolo County and outline steps the government has taken to ensure that the remaining schools are connected? B, what plans does the government have to also address security risk posed by the lack of fences along school borders to students and staff? Number C, could the Cabinet Secretary state plans by the government to improve schools infrastructure in Isiolo County, specifically in Mogore Primary School in Sericho Ward, where grade 6 pupils are studying in twigs placed under a tree? And I'll share the photo of that school, Mr. Speaker, if you could allow me, I'll table it. D, could the Cabinet Secretary confirm whether there is budgetary allocation to address the infrastructural challenges facing schools in Isiolo County in the year 2024-2025 financial year? And if so, state the amount. If you can allow me, I will table the photo of the school
if that will give a sympathy to this particular school in Sericho Ward. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
B,
Senator.
what plans
Cabinet
does the
Secretary,
government have
please
to
proceed.
also address security risk posed
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To question
by the lack of
part
fences
A,
along school
out of 144
borders
schools,
to students and staff?
98 have electricity
C,
either from the
could
national
the Cabinet
grid
Secretary
or
state
through
plans
solar
by the
power.
government to improve
63
schools
schools are
infrastructure
connected
in
to
Isiolo
water
County,
supply.
specifically in
The
Mogore
status of
Primary
the school
School
connection to water
in
and
Sericho
electricity
Ward,
per
where
sub-county
grade
in
6
Isiolo County is as
pupils
stipulated
are
in
studying in
Number one,
pigs
in Meriti sub-county,
placed under
there
a
are
tree.
17
And I'll share the
primary
photo
and junior
of that school,
secondary
Mr.
schools
Speaker,
and
if
4
you could
secondary
allow me,
schools.
I'll
3
table
schools
it.
are not connected
D,
to
could the
electricity.
Cabinet
7
Secretary
schools are
confirm
not
whether
connected to water.
there is
To address the
budgetary
water
allocation
challenge,
to
water
address the
tracking is done by
infrastructural
the
challenges
county
facing
government
schools
and
in
NGOs.
Isiolo County
Installation of gutters
in
to
the year
harvest rainwater and piping water
2024-2025
from
financial
community
year?
sites to connect
And if so, states the
Number
amount.
2,
You
Cherab,
can allow
in
me,
Cherab
I will
sub-county,
table
there are 12 primary schools and 2 secondary schools. None of the schools is connected to the
give a
national
sympathy
grid,
to this
only
particular
Dada
school in,
Chabasa
Sericho
has a
Ward.
functional solar.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Dada Chabasa Secondary School does not have reliable water supply. Water tracking is done by an NGO in collaboration with the county government from Aderuarabesa to other surrounding schools during the drought period, though not on regular and not adequate. Number 3, sub-county, Sericho sub-county. There are 10 primary schools and 2 secondary schools. Only 3 primary schools and 2 secondary schools are connected to the national grid. They are, however, not connected to any water supply. Number 4, Garbatula sub-county. There are 24 primary and junior secondary schools and 6 secondary schools. 12 primary schools and 4 secondary schools are connected to the national grid for power supply, and 2 secondary schools and 6 primary schools are on solar energy. Number 5, Isiolo sub-county, 34 primary schools, 34 primary and junior schools, and 15 secondary schools. Most schools in this sub-county are connected to the national grid, while the remaining have solar connections. 3 secondary schools, namely Arenmet, Karamara, Boys, and Leparua, have neither electricity nor solar. All the schools are connected to piped water, however, the supply of the water is not consistent. Number 6, Oldonyiro sub-county, there are 15 primary and junior schools and 3 secondary schools. 14 primary and junior schools are not connected to the national grid. 2 secondary schools are not connected to the grid at all. Mr. Speaker, the government is committed to ensuring that all schools have both electricity and reliable water supply, as these are essential for improving the quality of education and supporting the welfare of staff and students. Ministry of Education works closely with the relevant ministries, especially the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, county governments and development partners towards addressing these challenges. In the meantime, to address the water supply challenges, NGOs collaborate with the county government to track water, install gutters to have rainwater and pipe water to schools. Part B of the question, what plans the government has? At the moment, Mr. Speaker, over 72 schools in Isiolo County do not have fences along their boundaries. The Ministry of Education is pursuing a multi-stakeholder approach to address the challenges posed by the lack of fences along school borders. School heads and boards of management are requested or required to prioritize the fencing of schools using the capitation that the government sends to them. At the same time, we call upon members of parliament to dedicate a part of the CDF to support the development of critical infrastructure such as fences for our schools. The government is committed to ensuring that all part C of the question, Mr. Speaker, Isiolo County has benefited from the funds from the construction of junior school classrooms. The ministry has disbursed resources for the construction of grade 9 classrooms in the county. Already, 22 classrooms have been built in 21 schools. An additional 50 classrooms are being constructed in 42 schools across the county. The government has also provided Kenya shillings 11,725,483 to the 2 constituencies in the county for the construction of additional classrooms. At the moment, Mr. Speaker, Migore Primary School is one of the targeted schools, Mr. Speaker. The construction of grade 6 classrooms has been earmarked by the area CDF for this financial year. It's also important to note that the capitation disbursed by junior and secondary school has a component of 4,000 shillings for maintenance and infrastructure. Parents with children in boarding schools also pay an extra 2,000 shillings towards maintenance and infrastructure as part of parental obligations. Number 4, part 4 of that question, could the cabinet confront infrastructural challenges? Mr. Speaker, the resources that have been provided to address infrastructure challenges are as I've explained above. There is no additional budget for the year 2024-2025 for infrastructure. As additional 50 classrooms are being constructed.
Senator Dulo, do you have a supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, I have many questions and also interrogating the response. If you don't mind, I'll go once.
Just 2 questions. Supplementary 2 questions.
Mr. Speaker, this is really a weighty matter. I'll go very fast. 2 minutes will be enough for me if you can allow me.
Okay,
they are all related. They are all related.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'm really disappointed with the response given by the CS, because I would have expected him to give me the list of the schools that are listed and the ones that are not. But the response is general. This number of schools and this number of schools. It will be easier for me to follow which school, or even members of public, which ones don't have electricity, which ones don't have water. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, it's really unfair for the ministry to tell us that CDF will be provided, or national government, I mean county government, will provide water, when I know very well that county governments are unable even to provide water to its own citizens. So many schools, they don't have water, and I wish the ministry could actually liaise with the relevant departments and ministries to ensure that the schools have electricity and they have water. Mr. Speaker, again, I wanted to ask, what strategies are there in place to make sure that capitation allocation has been utilized properly? Because if it's properly utilized, that money will help our kids. Again, Mr. Speaker, I would expect the CS to have given us, this is what CDF has done, this is what national government has done. On the fences, there's so much drugs that are there in our counties. Without fence, the issues of display will be affected. The issues of drugs will affect also our kids. What is the ministry doing about it? I thank you. Or national government, I mean county government, will provide water, when I know very well that county governments are unable even to provide water to its own citizens.
Particularized list.
So many schools, they don't have water, and I wish the ministry could actually liaise with the relevant departments and ministries to ensure that the schools have electricity and they have water. Mr. Speaker,
we do work with county governments because water and sanitation are developed functions. So we try to work with them to provide some of these facilities to the schools, and we work with the Ministry of Water as well and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum to ensure that some of our schools, most of our schools through the last mile program, are actually connected to power. So we are doing all that we can to ensure that all our schools are actually connected to power or solar, and that water is also provided. In terms of the capitation and utilization of it, we do have accounting programs or accounting standards that once the funds are released to schools, they have to do returns, and accounting is done, and the schools, all the money is audited by the Auditor General to confirm that the amount that is given to schools has been utilized properly. Yes, we agree, in the counties we've got a lot of drugs and it is everywhere, and the question of fences as an infrastructure requirement is because of financial and budgetary limitations, and we will continue looking for resources and working together as a team to ensure that our schools are fenced. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. We proceed to the next question by Senator
provide some of these facilities to
I didn't see any interest for supplementary questions.
and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum to ensure that some of our schools, most of our schools through the last mile program.
How many want to ask a supplementary question on this question?
So we are doing all that we can.
So 3 on these questions only. Senator Homa Bay.
Power, solar, and that water is also provided. In terms of the capitation and utilization of it, we do have accounting programs or accounting standards that once the funds
Mr. Speaker, as I ask my question, allow me to congratulate the ministry and congratulate the millions of children who are finalizing their KPSEA examinations today. Unfortunately, from the presentation by the minister, it is clear that the ministry seems to be as clueless as the children who are doing exams today. The children doing exams today are not very sure what happens after that examination. Mr. Speaker, I'm a parent of a child who's sitting his final examinations today. And with the confusion that has come up, the CS saying that a sessional paper on CBC is still under development, and yet our children are already sitting exams, Mr. Speaker, that is a sign of serious problems. If we want to destroy a nation, destroy its education system. And the submission by the CS is a confirmation that our future is bleak. The CS says we have teachers without jobs, we have children without teachers, and he wants to export teachers. It's a mess, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to the CS on the infrastructure question from Senator Dulo. The infrastructure fund that is managed by the Ministry of Education, what is the criteria for allocation, and could we get a schedule of distribution of infrastructure funds from the ministry by county for the past 3 years? And Mr. Speaker, on the 30th of June, 2023, the PS in the Ministry of Education, my friend, now the name has just disappeared, my friend Belio, Dr. Belio, was in Mbita, at Mbita National School, a school, Mr. Speaker, that was founded by my late father and the late Tom Boyer. The PS promised on that occasion that he was going to allocate 10 million shillings to improve the infrastructure of Mbita National School, as well as Senator Otieno Kajwang Secondary School. Mr. Speaker, would the CS tell us whether that money was disbursed? And now that we are mourning the prolific Professor Karega Mutai, whether the CS Treasury, the CS Education, could also consider an infrastructural support to Professor Karega Mutai Secondary School, the school that was established by the then TS in Mfangano Island.
Senator Kajwang, you were only supposed to ask one question, and you've asked 3 questions. You've had, but I will ask the CS only to answer one question from Senator Kajwang. Senator Cheptumo.
On the 30th of June, 2023, the PS...
And let's be very brief with the supplementary questions.
My friend...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now the name has just disappeared.
Mr. Speaker, I want to confirm to the House
was in Mbita,
that the Minister for the new CS for Education was my classmate
and the late Tom Boyer.
in the University
The PS
of Nairobi,
promised on that occasion
Faculty of Law.
that he was going to allocate 10 million.
And I just want to congratulate you for the appointment. And we look forward to you serving our country and our sector of education diligently as you have always been. Mr. Speaker, Baringo County, where I come from,
whether the CS Treasury,
we have
the CS
three constituencies
could also consider
that have had a lot of
an
challenges on
infrastructural
matters
support
security.
Professor Karega Mutai
A
Secondary
lot of schools had been
the
closed.
school that was established by the then
And
TS
through
in
the
Mfangano
government
Island.
efforts, Mr.
Senator
Speaker,
Kajwang, you were only
there has
supposed to
been
ask one
some
question, and you've asked 3 questions.
peace in that area.
But I will ask the CS
And some
only
of the
to
schools
answer
are
one
now
question
being
from Senator
reconstructed
Kajwang.
in Baringo
Senator
North
Cheptumo.
and in Baringo South and also Tiati. Mr. Speaker, I'm worried that there is no infrastructure fund for 2024-2025. I wanted the CS to confirm. I know he is consulting with the PS, but I wanted the CS to confirm those schools which have been ongoing, you have been doing it to the Defense Ministry and your ministry, the status of those schools in terms of the renovations, and what are you going to do when CS if you have no money for that purpose in this financial year? That's my concern. I think there are about 4 schools in Baringo North, about 5 or so in Baringo South, and some in Ktn, and work already had started.
A lot of schools had been closed. Senator Catherine Muma, and Senator Muma, you have a question, so we're running out of time.
Honorable Speaker, thank you so much. This will be a quick one. Honorable CS, you will agree with me that education is the greatest opportunity to bridge the gaps between the inequalities among regions and persons in Kenya. Now, looking at the answers you've given to Isiolo, Isiolo only has 2 constituencies, and it shatters my mind that we have schools that don't have water. Honorable Speaker, at this stage in life, we should be doing the Owalo thing, getting laptops to schools, because everything is getting digitized. To find that we have regions that don't have water is not acceptable. As CS, I'm requesting that this, you provide a breakdown of all funds and support to the education sector, wherever it is situated, whether it is CDF, whether it is Ministry of Labor, and provide to the Senate by breakdown of counties. That is the only way we can speak to the issue of equity, so that we can together, as you say, start looking at this issue.
Thank you, Senator. We'll take the last question from Commissioner Senator Joyce. Very quickly.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I have one question related to the PS in charge of higher education. I would want to know the plans of the ministry as regarded to the Bomet University structure that has been there for the last 2 years. I remember I raised this question a year ago, and the same structure is still stuck to date. What are the plans that they have for the Bomet University? Thank you.
Because everything is getting digitized. To find that we have regions that don't have water is not acceptable. As CS, I'm requesting that this, you provide a breakdown of all
after congratulating us, was going
funds
to retain that
and support to the sector, wherever it is situated, whether it is CDF, whether it is Ministry of Labor, and
we are
provide
not,
to the Senate by
clueless.
breakdown
I think
of counties.
we are quite
That is the only way we can speak to the issue of equity,
and as I indicated,
so that we can together, as you say,
in existence section of paper number 1 of 2019 on the policy framework for reforming education and framing for sustainable development.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
And there is another policy that deals with curriculum policies, basic education policy, basic assessment policy. They are quite a number. What
of the
I was
ministry
saying is that we are
as regarded to the
coalescing
Bomet
all these ones
University
into one
structure that has been
particular
there
policy so that
for
we
the
have
last 2
everything
years. I remember I raised this
in
question a year ago,
one
and the
particular
same
system so that
structure is
it's
still stuck to date.
easier
What are the plans that they have
so
for the
we are
Bomet
not,
University?
Because everything is getting
I hope you retain that. Congratulations.
find that we have regions
Thank
that
you.
don't have water.
To Senator Cheptumo, we are going to try and raise this issue of infrastructure in the supplementary budget. I think what happened is because of the issues and the challenges we had with the finance bill, there has been a bit of challenge in that space. But when we're doing the next supplementary, which I think is next month, we are not be able to bring this to the attention of Parliament so that we can get budget to be able to undertake these exercises. The 10 million that was promised has already been disbursed. I'm informed it has already been disbursed, so that's a good thing. Then on the question of Senator Mumo on laptops and getting all these funds, I couldn't agree with you more. I think what we're going to do as directed, we are going to try and get all these funds together and then submit a list of how many funds and bursaries are in whatever ministry that deals with education, and that we can submit that to ensure that we are clear and then have that conversation together. There's the question of Bomet University. Thank you. To Senator Cheptumo, we are going to try and, Mr. Speaker, we had allocated funds in the budget for Bomet University, but when the budget was rationalized this year again because of the finance bill of 2024-2025, it was rationalized to zero. So we shall again try and work backwards and see how much can be allocated for us to be able to complete those. And there are many instances where this has happened. We are going to continue working to ensure that we have a number of ongoing capital projects, I think, across 38 universities that amount to 62. And so we are working to ensure that that figure is included in the supplementary budget. I submit to you as directed.
Thank you. Honorable Senators, we're going to try and move very fast. There are 3 questions remaining by Senator Mbugua, Senator Boni Kalwale, and Senator Muma. So we will take the 3 questions, and the CS will reply to the 3 questions, and then once he finishes the replying, we will take the supplementary questions. So Senator Mbugua, please proceed with your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 111. Could the Cabinet Secretary tell us what is the budgetary allocation for capitation to primary special schools and units, special needs education, S&D junior and senior secondary schools in the 2024-2025 financial year? And could the Cabinet Secretary provide a status update on the establishment and implementation of the minimum essential package capitation for special needs schools and units? And B, what is the budgetary allocation for infrastructural development in primary special schools and units in the 2024-25 financial year? And could the Cabinet Secretary provide a per county list of all the ongoing infrastructural projects in the schools? And C, what budgetary allocation has been made for the construction of a learning materials and assistive devices production unit and the Kenya Institute of Special Education, as well as for the procurement and supply of instructional materials and devices to special needs schools and units in the 2024-25 financial year? And could the Cabinet Secretary explain how this allocation has impacted on the S&E capitation? And D, could the Cabinet Secretary also provide details on the disaster mitigation measures and administrative protocols the Ministry has put in place to address the diverse safety needs for learners in special schools and units? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Catherine Muma. Question 115.
Provide a status
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
On the establishment and implementation of the minimum.
My question to the CS is one, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a status update on the program for the construction of the required 16,000 classrooms and other related critical infrastructure across the 47 counties in preparation for the transition of junior school learners to grade 9, and also indicate the number of schools that are adequately prepared to accommodate grade 9 learners. 2, how much money has been allocated for the successful completion of the program in the 2024-2025 financial year, and could the Cabinet Secretary state the amount disbursed so far? 3, what measures has the government put in place to ensure the program is completed before the start of 2025 academic year? And 4, could the Cabinet Secretary explain how government plans to address the existing shortage of junior school teachers, which is expected to worsen with the transition of junior school learners to grade 9?
My question to the CS is one.
Thank you. Senator Boni Kalwale.
The Cabinet Secretary
Question number
provide a
36.
status update on the program for the construction
Thank
of
you,
the required
the Speaker.
16,000
Mr.
classrooms
Speaker, sir,
and other related
I would
critical
like the Cabinet
infrastructure
Secretary to
across
confirm
the
whether
47 counties in preparation
36,505 teachers
for the transition
were
of junior
promoted following the
school
recent
learners
countrywide
to
interviews,
grade 9,
and if so,
and also indicate
provide a
the
breakdown
number
of
of
their
schools
distribution
that
per
are
county.
adequately prepared to
And secondly,
accommodate grade 9
could he
learners.
provide a list of all the promoted
How much
teachers
money has been
indicating their
allocated for the
respective
successful completion
ethnicities
of
and
the
counties of
program
origin?
in the
And finally,
2024-2025
how many of
financial year?
these teachers
And
were
could the
interviewed
Cabinet
for
Secretary
promotion?
state the amount
And
disbursed
could he
so far?
explain any measures put in place
What
to
measures has
ensure
the
that
government
the
put in
outcome
place
met
to ensure
the
the
constitutional
program
requirements
is
for regional
completed before
and
the start of
ethnic balance?
2025 academic year? And 4, could the Cabinet Secretary explain how government plans to address the existing shortage of junior
Thank
school
you for your
teachers?
indulgence. The fifth question is, could the steps the ministry is taking to
uh,
address
school
concerns raised by the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, and other stakeholders regarding staffing, teacher motivation, and overall capacity of primary schools to accommodate junior school learners?
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. You can proceed to answer those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question by Honorable George Bogwa. Mr. Speaker, in the financial year 2024-2025, at the primary school level, 166,166.9 million was allocated as free primary education capitation to 117,565 special needs education learners in primary schools. In addition, 270.3 million was allocated as top-up on the free primary education capitation to the 117,565 special needs learners at the rate of 2,300 per learner. This amount is for the provision of specialized learning materials, assistive
address
devices
concerns
and
raised by the
technology.
Kenya Union of
For learners in
Post-Primary
special boarding
Teachers,
schools,
KUPPET,
455
and
million
other
was
stakeholders
allocated to cater
regarding
to
staffing, teacher motivation,
43,645
overall
special needs
capacity
learners. This
of
allocation
primary schools
is meant to subsidize
accommodate
boarding
junior
expenses and
school
pay
learners.
salaries for non-teaching staff, and this allocation are indicated in Table 6 and 7 below. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They are actually stipulated there on that Table 6 and Table 7. Mr. Speaker, for junior schools, the ministry has budgeted an allocation of 30.6 billion for junior capitation. All learners, inclusive of learners with special needs and disabilities, receive capitation of 15,042 per learner per year as free-day junior school capitation. Special learners in special junior boarding schools as Kenya shillings 35,730 per learner per year to subsidize boarding expenses and pay salaries for non-teaching support staff. At the secondary school level, the approved rate of capitation per learner is 22,244 per learner per year. The allocation of 200 million is provided annually to cater for special needs learners' capitation as top-up capitation.